worship leader that wants to come after Cindy somewhere down the way that wants to sing a hymn, that doesn't want to sing a hymn, he going to be in trouble. All right, we're going to be mainly in the book of James, but I'm going to read some from the book of Psalms too. I know you've had a moment in your life, maybe you got a moment right now to where you're saying, hurry up, God, hurry up. Hurry up. Hurry up, I need you. Hurry up, I need a breakthrough. Hurry up. This needs to pass. Hurry up and bring that vengeance on that person that you need to bring so I can let me be there when you do it so I can see it. God, hurry up. Nothing wrong with praying and asking God to hurry. That's the reason why I gave you these different scripture in the book of Psalms, because oftentimes David and other people throughout the Bible were praying and asking God to make haste, to hurry, to deliver them, to relieve the suffering. But in the New Testament, even in the Old Testament too, but James put a perspective on it to where whatever it is that you're going through, yeah, it's okay to pray for God to hurry up, but God could be waiting for a reason. And that reason could be you. That reason could be other things that he is lining up. Psalms 38:22. Make haste to help me, O Lord, my salvation. Psalm 71. O God, hasten to deliver me. O Lord, hasten to my help. Psalm 71:12. O God, do not be far from me. O my God, hasten to my help. Psalms 141:1. O Lord, I call upon you. Hasten to me. Give ear to my voice when I call to you. James chapter 5, verse 7. Therefore, be patient. Hurry up, God. Then God says, therefore, be patient, brethren, until the coming of the Lord. The farmer waits for the precious produce of the soil, being patient about it until he gets the early and late rains. You too be patient. Strengthen your heart, for the coming of the Lord is near. Now, he says that at the beginning. He says, wait for the coming of the Lord. Then he says again, the coming of the Lord is near. So in other words, be patient. Keep praying for God to hasten. He's near. He's coming. He's on the way. But he's going to be there on his schedule. But notice what he tells us as we wait. Do not complain, brethren, against one another, so that you yourselves may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing right at the door. As an example, brethren, of suffering and patience, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. We count those blessed who endured. You have heard of the endurance of Job and have seen the outcome of the Lord's dealings, that the Lord is full of compassion and is merciful. But above all, my brethren, do not swear, either by heaven or by earth or with any other oath, but let your yes be a yes and your no be a no, so that you do not fall into judgment. We're always in a hurry, and we're always in a hurry even when God isn't. There's no doubt today we live in a give it to me now generation, and Lord, help us, the children that we're raising now, because they are getting the brunt of it from birth all the way through. So when they get into early adulthood and they start needing things to happen in their life, we are in for a treat. I believe that's the reason why more and more people are laying down on the horns. I've been in Riverdale a lot recently, and I notice people blow the horn more in Riverdale than they do in Stockbridge. I don't know what it is, but they laying down on that horn over there, and you know that it's frustration. Hurry up, get out of my way. Hurry up, you're causing traffic to back up. But did you know that waiting is probably one of the most hated, most frustrating things that we deal with in life? We don't like to wait. even for those of us that wouldn't consider ourselves to be impatient. But if you think about it, we wait for everything in life. We wait when we go through the drive-thru. We have to wait to go see the doctor. We have to wait in line when we go to the store. We have to wait in traffic jams. Some of you are waiting on your vacation to come, and you can't wait for it to get here. Think about how it is when we go out to eat. When we get there, we have to wait to be seated, and then we have to wait to get our menus, and then we have to wait to get our drinks, and then we have to wait for someone to come back and take our order, and then we got to wait on our food, and then after we're through eating, we got to wait on our bill. And then after we get our bill, we got to wait on them to come back and get it so that we can pay. And then we got to wait on them to bring it back so that we can get our card back. I mean, we wait, and we wait some more. But for some reason, we don't like to wait on God. Matter of fact, sometimes we'll even take things under our own hands, and we'll try to control things. We'll try to manipulate things. We'll try to do if someone needs to be straightened out, we'll be the one that'll stand in that gap. God, don't worry about hurrying up. I'll go ahead and take care of it myself. I'm going to deal with this right here, right now. They're going to know where I stand. They're going to know how they messed over me and messed over you, God, and I'm going to help you, God. I'm here, your servant. I'm going to help you out. But you know, God's timing, even though the majority of the time doesn't line up with our timing, he's always right on time. I've always said in the Christmas story, you can see that when the fullness of time came, that God is never early and he's never late. He's always right on time. And for us to be able to really learn that he is an on-time God, we got to go through some struggles in life. We've even got to go through some things that we're suffering in life. Yes, there is suffering in this world. And sometimes we have to suffer, as it mentions the prophets, it mentions about Job. Job had to suffer. But through the suffering, he endured. And because he endured, he is known in the Bible as the most patient man that ever lived. It's not because he did everything perfect, but because of when he suffered, he did not take that straight back and ridicule God or try to hurry up God or try to blame God. He endured. He persevered. He didn't quit. He didn't give up. He just waited on God's timing for him to bring deliverance and for him to bring healing. Now, patience is waiting. It is more than just waiting, as we're going to see this morning. It is a virtue. It is a fruit of the Spirit that is produced in the believer's life when we are attached to the vine and we are becoming less of us and more of him. This is one of those fruits of the Spirit that you can't manufacture and you can't fool anybody on. You might be able to fool them for a little bit, but eventually it's going to show up that you either have this virtue or you don't, because people are going to be able to get a front view of whether or not you are patient and whether or not you're able to persevere and not quit and not give up. Let me give you some things here in the beginning of what we're talking about this morning when we talk about patience. First of all, it is the ability to wait, as we've already said, but wait for what? Wait for God's breakthrough, for God's timing, wait for his intervention. And that doesn't mean that as we wait, we just sit and do nothing. I love the teaching of Jesus. I think it's spoken of in Matthew and Luke, to where he tells us that we are to ask and that we are to seek and that we are to knock. And we're to keep on asking and we're to keep on seeking and we're to keep on knocking. And just as those verses that we read a few moments ago, where it says, make haste, God. Please today, God, deliver me. Help me today. It's just like as we wait on God, we're asking, seeking, and knocking. God, please, let today be today. God, give me your strength to make it through this day. Comfort me, surround me. But God, I'm asking, and I'm seeking you today, and I'm expecting your arrival today, and I'm knocking. God, I'm knocking and begging you to open up the door. And the more you ask and the more you seek and the more you knock, the more you see inside of yourself of what God is actually trying to accomplish in you, because there is no other virtue, no other fruit of the Spirit that will make your roots go deeper into the ground than your ability to be able to wait on God to deliver you, or wait on God to be able to fix something, or wait on God to bring a breakthrough. Because when you are asking, seeking, and knocking, He is doing a work inside of your life to where your roots are going to be even more firmly established, and you're going to be more strengthened than you've ever been before. But it's not only the ability to wait, it's the ability to keep a level head as you wait, the ability to be able to control your spirit as you wait, to be able to rule your emotions, to be able to exercise some self-restraint. Now, all of you got that one down, Pat. No problem at all. Literally what it means to be long-fused. You know, the word patient actually means long-suffering too. So it means for you and I to have a long fuse with people. You know, when you are going through something to where you're wanting God to intervene, it's easy to get irritated and frustrated and aggravated. And the first thing that's going to come that you're going to see is you're going to see your emotions are going to be stirred. So when your emotions are stirred, you want to what? You want to step in and engage, say something, do something, act a certain way. But when God is producing patience in your life, even though all of those things are going to be battling inside of you, even though you're going to want to say something, even though you're going to want to step in and let somebody know how wrong they are, you're going to be able to control that moment and control your spirit and realize that the coming of the Lord is near. The judge is standing at the door. I've got to be careful on what I say. I got to be careful on how I say it and what I do, because that same judge that I'm wanting to bring judgment here might just bring judgment back on me. And we're going to see that in just a few moments. So when you're under attack, when the pressure is being applied, what is your reaction this morning? I believe James and Peter both call it the trial of your faith, is what develops this patience in our lives. And God does it through difficulties. He does it through irritating people. Yes, God uses irritating people in your life to frustrate you over and over and over, not so that your eyes are on the irritating person, but so your eyes can go from God, from that person to God, so that God can then take your eyes to Him, so that He can go back inside of you and see what He needs to do inside of you. It's not we need to fix somebody else. God wants to fix you, so that the irritating, frustrating people and circumstances and all of those things don't cause you to let go, quit, and go off. Number one, be patient when facing difficulties. Be patient. Notice, we just read there, verse 7. It says, be patient until the Lord's coming. And then he uses the illustration of a farmer. Now, you already know that if you're an impatient person, the last thing you need to do is farm. Because you got to wait. You got to get out there and you got to work your tail off. And then you got to sit back and what? You got to wait. And then there's this thing waiting as the farming that they're talking about here. You got to get the early rains. and you got to get the late rains, but you need just the right amount of rain, not too little, not too much. You need it early on, and then you need those late rains, not too much, but just enough. So you got to sit back and you got to look for that and wait for that. The same way that a farmer has to be patient, James tells us in verse number 8, he says, you too be patient. Just like that farmer, where he has to look for the early rains and the late rains, you have to be patient too and realize that his coming is near. Keep looking to him. Keep asking. Keep seeking. Keep knocking. Keep your eye on him. And as you keep your eye on him, do three things. First of all, point number A, keep running faithfully. This is number one. Number one, you keep running faithfully. You keep on the track. It's so easy to get frustrated. It is. So easy to get frustrated in life. It's so easy to get frustrated in the middle of a trial. It's so easy to get frustrated to where we just want to quit and we just want to give up. But if we do that, we're going to miss the blessing. We're going to miss what God's trying to do in our lives. But when things are falling apart, it's kind of hard to hold it together and not quit. When you're doing everything right and you've been making the right decisions and yet everything is still going wrong and everything is still sinking right in front of you and getting worse, no change at all, it's kind of hard to hold it together and not just throw in the towel and give up. But Hebrews 12:1 says, let us run with patience the race that is set before us, set before you. Let you run with patience your race. It's not their race. It's not their race even interfering with your race. God is saying, you run your race. Don't worry about him, her, this, that. What's there, what's back there. You run your race. You run your race and you run it with patience and let it be you and God. Let it be you and a line of connection with God to where you're praying, and don't give up. Don't quit. Keep expressing your thanksgiving to God. Keep making the right choices. Keep running faithfully. We think that's so elementary, but yet it's the hardest thing for people to do. It's amazing how much we let other people keep us from doing what God told us to do. I know, Ezekiel is here this morning, green shirt right there. Everybody see Ezekiel right behind Jesse. And I've been Ezekiel's pastor for 20 years, a little over 20 years. And he was back with us at Conley. And I can think, and he served as a deacon here for a decade or more, and has always been a man that I thought had such great wisdom, one of those people that could say something that I would just totally mess up if I tried to say it to somebody else, but yet he can say it and be so direct and say it. That's just his gift of being able to do it. And I know he's told me time and time again, Pastor, I don't care how much you want to quit and how much you don't want to preach or do that or get frustrated. You can't quit. Because if you quit, you're going to want to preach. And the reason why you're going to want to preach is because that's what God created you to do. How much or how many times do we let other people keep us from what God's called us to? What are we going to do? Say, okay, Judge, you're right there standing at the door. I just want you to know, Judge, God, you told me that I needed to be doing this, and I know I was supposed to obey you, but I let this person over here and that person over there, they really, really irritate me to death. They just make me so mad. They don't do this, that, or the other. And I just want you to know, Judge, even though I was supposed to be obedient to you, I let them cause me to quit on you. Don't sound too good, but we're one heartbeat away from that. Point number 8, keep running faithfully. Number 2, keep from striking outwardly. Now that brings us back to controlling your spirit. That brings you back to being long fused. So stay calm. Stay in control in your difficulty and with people. It's hard to be quiet when you're frustrated, ain't it? Hard to be quiet when you're aggravated and irritated. It's hard to be quiet. I know. I'm right there with you. I live it. Sometimes I'll do it the backwards way altogether, just because it seems as though you're being long fused. You might not really be being long fused if you're letting it build up. So in other words, you might not have said one word for 3 months, and then a tsunami just hit the shore. So make sure that in the midst of you thinking you're controlling your emotions, that you're not letting life and people and all these frustrating things cause you to build resentment and to become bitter on the inside, because you can only keep that poison on the inside for so long. It is going to erupt somewhere down the way. So keep from striking outwardly. Third of all, keep looking upwardly. Keep looking to God. Set your affections on things above. Look to the hills, as the psalmist says, from where your help comes from. The farmer has to look to the sky. He has to look to the sky, he's got to get the right amount of sun, the right amount of rain. And he's looking to the sky every day. What's he going to get today? Well, we got to be looking to God every day. But you know what? That farmer can't control the rain, can he? He can't control how much he gets or when he gets it. And have you discovered yet that you can't control life? Have you discovered yet that the majority of life is beyond your control altogether? Even the things you think you got a handle on and you think you've got under control, you really don't have that much control over. We think we do until it starts to crumble and fall apart. So much of life we don't have under control, so we've got to look to Him. We got to seek Him. So when we seek Him, what do we have to seek as we dwell in His presence? We got to seek His wisdom. Now, if you're going to navigate through any trial, or you're going to navigate through irritating, frustrating people that you got to work with or that you go to church with, whatever the case may be, if you have to navigate through something that you're suffering through in life, then you need God's wisdom. God, how do I handle this person? God, what is my next step? What do I do? God, I'm asking, I'm seeking, I'm knocking. God, I'm begging you to hurry up and bring the breakthrough. But God, in the midst of it, as I dwell in your presence, as I meditate on your word, God, give me your wisdom of what I do until the breakthrough comes into my life. Number 1, be patient in difficulties. Number 2, be patient when facing disappointments. When you get disappointing news, what does it do to you? when you get, well, I'm going to take this, y'all thought we was through on that striking outward, but the reason why I didn't say as much there is because we're going to say a little bit more right here. Because James tells us there in chapter 5, verse number 9, right after he talks about being patient, he immediately says, do not complain. Now, when somebody complains to you, what does it do to you? You like want them to shut up so you can complain. We really don't want to hear other people complain. You know, we really don't. If we're all honest, we really don't want to hear it. Even though we try to be a good friend sometimes and listen to it, hearing it is never an easy thing. And sometimes the complainer complains more than they even know they're complaining. I mean, they just don't even realize it. And it's so easy. Notice James says that if you're going to have this patience and God is going to work this virtue and produce this fruit in your life, then whatever it is that you're going through as you're looking to God, whatever it is, whatever storm, person, health, financial, job related, you're going to have to learn how not to complain. So that's point number 8. Point number 8, he says, don't complain. Don't grumble. Some of us will complain to anybody who will listen. If they'll listen, this is the honest God truth. There's some people, and I've learned this through the years. Excuse me. There's some people that if you want to get the latest of what's going on, just get them talking. Just get them talking. That's all you got to do. Just nudge them just a little bit. And I'm good at nudging people. I can nudge, and we can be laughing and carrying on about it as I just gently nudge. And then they just start talking. And then as they start complaining, all these other little things start showing up in the picture. So we have to be careful not to complain, because what we're doing is we're telling everybody else how bad our life is, how bad somebody else is, how bad we've been taken advantage of, and all it does is produce a negative spirit. And a negative spirit cannot be a spirit to where God is dwelling without being quenched. We're quenching the spirit. We're quenching and breaking off that connection and that line. And at the same time, we're putting out an attitude and a vibe to where even though people aren't looking at us in the face and saying, you just need to let that go and just let God handle that and let him deal with that. Just, we should be more honest. I love, y'all have heard me, I don't know how many of you watch her, but Yana, I can't even say her name, but she's brilliant. She says, do you know how big of a disservice you're doing to somebody by not telling them things that you should tell them? She says, you're being just as bad as somebody who is betraying them behind their back, because you're betraying them in their face. And that's what friendship in the Bible and accountability in the Bible is all about. We should be able to go to those that we love and be able to say, whew, put the brakes on, sister. Put the brakes on, brother. Do you realize this? Now, with all that, you got to do it in the right what? You got to do it in the right spirit. And the only way you can ever do that in the right spirit is you got to have God's spirit. So you can't complain. You can't be complaining. Next of all, not only don't complain, don't criticize. Don't criticize. Don't talk about other people. Don't go after other people. It says, do not complain, brethren, against one another. I told Cindy last time, I'll tell everybody, because this is the most brilliant news. If anybody comes to you and wants to talk to you about somebody else, you do not talk to them about anybody else without saying, let me get that other person so they can be here so we can resolve something instead of stirring. You imagine the resurrection in life that would come to a body if we would do that? You want somebody not to talk to you or complain to you, tell them that one time. And that will let you know what their true motive is. If their true motive is this is bothering them, they'll say, call him, call her, get them over here, let's talk about this, and let's get it all worked out. But patience is you're going to want to retaliate. Let's just face it. Sometimes you just, natural in the flesh, you want to retaliate. But when God is developing patience, you can't complain and you don't criticize. And then third of all, you better be careful. Verse 9. I've already made reference to it, but it says the judge is standing at the door. He's standing there. He's watching you, the judge, God. Now, this is what we got to be careful of. If we insist to God that he deals with them for what they have dealt to us, then God, the judge, is also obligated to deal with you in what you have done to others. Be careful. It's kind of like if we could just teach the whole Bible in 1 week so everybody would know. It's kind of like that unforgiving servant parable, to where he's let out of jail because he didn't pay a debt, and he owed this man a lot of money, and Jesus is telling this parable. Then he gets out, somebody owes him a couple of cents compared to what he owed. He doesn't forgive them, has them thrown in the jail. The word gets back to the one, which is back to God, back to the judge. So then he's obligated to deal with us in the way that we deal with others. It's okay for you not to forgive other people if you want God not to forgive you. Forgive us our debts, God, as we forgive our debtors. God gives you the option. He says you need to forgive. But if you don't, it's your choice. I'm not going to forgive you. I'm going to deal with you the same exact way you deal with others. So we have to be careful. We have to watch our actions. We have to watch our attitudes, because did you know you are one heartbeat away from the judge? Number 3, we need to be patient when facing difficulties, disappointments, and also disaster. Verse 10 says, as an example, brethren, of suffering and patience, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. We count those blessed who endured. You have heard of the endurance of Job and seen the outcome of the Lord's dealings. Now, we know the story, but did you know Job didn't know the story? Job didn't know there was a backdrop to it. Job didn't know that there was something that was going on in heaven, that he was the topic of a conversation. And Satan up there talking with God about Job, and how Job is an upright man. He fears God. He loves God. He serves God. And Satan's up there saying, yeah, the reason why he loves you, the reason why he fears you, the reason why he doesn't have any problem living for you and honoring you is because you've been so good to him. You start taking some of that stuff away from him, and you'll see he won't follow you like that anymore. Job didn't know all this was happening in the backdrop. All Job knew was, bam, Bam! Bam. Man, he lost 7 sons, 3 daughters. He lost all of his wealth. He lost his health. Balls came up all over his body. He's sitting there scraping on them and just being miserable. And his wife looks at him and says, just like any encouraging wife would, curse God and die so I can get your life insurance. Curse God and die, boy. I mean, this is just misery. Because you know what? She was thinking the same thing. A lot of us don't read past chapter number 1, and some of it is deep and gets really over your head. But there's going to be 3 friends that are going to come and try to comfort Job and all of those chapters. And literally all 3 of them, basically paraphrased, say the same thing. Job, everything that you're going through right now has to be traced back to some kind of terrible sin in your life. I mean, there's got to be something there that's just not right. There's got to be a hidden sin somewhere. You got to find out where that hidden sin is so God can take this away. But you know what? Yeah, he's like us. Yeah, he was a sinner saved by God's grace, but didn't have anything to do with any of that. And you know what Job did? What you and I have to do is we have to endure. We have to endure. That's point number 8. Can you imagine? You think about it. You have to endure as you keep asking, seeking, and knocking. You have to endure as you keep running faithfully. You have to endure as you try to control your spirit and control your emotions. And you don't complain and curse others and criticize others. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other foot, and you just endure. Let endurance have its what? James said in chapter number 1, it's perfect work. I mean, endurance will do something inside of you that nothing else can do. You ever just beg God to do something and to bring something into your life, and you beg him and beg him and beg him and beg him, and you think you can't go another day, and 6 months later, you're still begging? And I guarantee you, if you were asking, seeking, and knocking, God done something inside of you during that 6 months that you couldn't have got any other way. Now, if you spent 6 months to complain and cuss and curse, then God's just now starting with you. But endurance, like I said, is one of those virtues that's going to take your roots deeper, that's going to show the righteousness of Christ in your life in a totally different way. People are just going to be able to see it. They're going to be able to see it without you having to advertise it. They will just see it. And they will see that you are endured. You know what Job said? You can write this down. Job 19, 25, 27. He says, I know my Redeemer lives. I know he lives. And I know he took all these things away. But what Job said in those few verses is he recognized the sovereignty of God. He recognized the sovereignty of God, and that simply means God is in absolute control. Yeah, there's people making choices and decisions that are bringing wickedness and destruction, and they're reaping havoc in people's lives, but there's one thing for certain that you and I need to know, and that is the sovereignty of God. If you don't believe in it, you'll never hold yourself together in the midst of something that is catastrophic in your life. It's to realize, and you may not know why, you may not know how, you may not ever have an explanation, you might not ever be able to wrap your head around it, but you got to know God is in control. And that somewhere on the other side of that door, there's some good on the other side of that door. And you might not know when you're going to see that good or when it's going to wrap itself around you. But God said it, he promised it, and it's going to be there. That doesn't mean he's going to take away all those scars. There's some things you've suffered that you'll suffer with and have scars and have to deal with till God calls you home. But you know those scars, even though they still hurt and bring pain, you know that God has brought healing. So that you know that on the other side of that store, whatever that good is, you're going to embrace it. And you're going to embrace it in a different way because you endured. And then, second of all, B, you need to embrace. Oh, I still got 3 more points. I thought I was at the end. That's the reason why I was lagging on right there. Then you have to endure. You have to embrace. Embrace who? You embrace your Redeemer. 3 things right here. So what do you do during this time? You bow down and you worship. You bow down and you worship him. Everything is on his schedule. Everything is on his time. You just trust him. Number 2, you not only bow down and worship, but you look up and you watch him. You look up and you watch him. You like the farmer watches the skies, waits for a cloud to come so he can get some rain. You keep running, you hold it together, you keep looking, God is at work. And you know what? Job did that. And even though Job had 7 sons and 3 daughters that he lost, he really didn't lose. They were in heaven with God. He received back double everything he lost. He not only had 20. He had double the amount of servants, double the amount of money. God restored back to him double. I don't know how God's going to bless you, but he's going to bless you. It may not be in the same way he did Job, but he'll bless you. Excuse me. And then number 3, speak up, speak out, and witness about him. And you know what? Job did that very thing. I didn't write the scripture down, but it's Job 42, verses 5 and 6. You'll be the same way. Job basically summed it up. Let me give you a paraphrase. He says, I've heard about you through the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes have seen the salvation of the Lord. In other words, I heard about it. My mom took me to church. They taught me about it in Sunday school. I heard them talking about it in Bible study, in worship service. We stayed there all afternoon. I've been hearing about it and hearing about it and hearing about it. But now, my eyes have seen it for myself. If you've seen something that you've only heard about all this time, and now you've seen it, don't let it stay inside. Speak up and speak out and let other people know there is a sovereign God who is in control. And you may not know how it's going to work out, how it's going to turn out, but God is up to something big. Let's stand by. Some of you have been praying for something and it still ain't came. Don't quit. Don't give up.